We are coming up on 5 months on October 12th here, 5 months since Tears of the Kingdom released. And I really got to come in here and talk a little bit. There's been a lot of discussion recently. Scott the Woz actually put up a video about Tears of the Kingdom, talking about some of the things that he didn't like about it. I've heard some other rumblings and stuff about how Tears of the Kingdom is not the perfect game that everybody thought it was when it launched. And to set the record straight, I still think this is one of the best games I've ever played. Tears of the Kingdom is fantastic in so many ways, but the tagline for this video really has to be that everything that makes Tears of the Kingdom great is also what makes it kinda suck just a little bit, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. I haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom yet. I have been taking my time with this game. I don't have a whole lot of, days where I can put 7 or 8 hours into a game in one sitting. I've been playing it an hour here and an hour there. I'm like 30 plus hours into the game. I absolutely love the time that I have spent with Tears of the Kingdom in so many ways. Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite modern game, period. Tears of the Kingdom, in a lot of ways, surpassed Breath of the Wild, but in some ways it hasn't. And, after the, 30 or so gaming sessions that I have spent at an hour here and an hour there with Tears of the Kingdom, I've gotten pretty far into the game. And I've accomplished an awful lot of things, but not as many as you might think. This game is massive. It's absolutely overwhelmingly massive if you just want to live in this world, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your perspective. But what really grinds my gears about this game is that they seem to have gone out of their way to just up the ante in Tears of the Kingdom and make everything just a little bit more difficult. And I'm not talking about difficulty in manual dexterity of, doing the battles or something. I'm talking about difficulty in an annoying way, where everything that you go to do in this game has its own set of challenges that just get in the way of you simply going from A to B or doing whatever you want to do.
And then they sold us this whole thing about the Sky Islands being this crazy amazing thing, right? And I mean, they were pretty cool. They are pretty cool, but the thing with the Sky Islands is once you get out of that first tutorial section in that first 2 to 3 hours of the game, you really don't have a whole lot of reason to go back to the Sky Islands. I mean, there is some stuff up there, but one of the most useful parts about the sky is being able to go up there and jump off something in order to get somewhere quicker, like a fast travel mechanic, right? If you're looking to get to a new tower or something that's on the top of a mountain or something, being able to warp up to the Sky Islands and then jump off something is great. However, there's not actually that many Sky Islands up there, and often the ones that are up there you can't really get to without some kind of a vehicle or something because you haven't done any kind of shrine or anything. These islands are pretty much empty. There's not much going on up there on a lot of these islands. The first major Sky Island, the Great Sky Island, is fantastic. There's lots of ground to cover. There's lots of enemies up there. There's chests. There's caves. There's all kinds of stuff. But once you start exploring these other islands that are here, there, and everywhere dotted around the sky, they're not all that useful. There's not that much up there to do. And that brings us to the conversation of the depths as well, because the depths, they seem really cool that we have all this extra square footage to explore, but there's not a whole lot down there other than more crafting materials. That's another thing that really drives me nuts, is that there are so many different currencies in this game. You've got your mining materials that you trade for your zoonite and stuff that you trade for, other stuff. And you've got your energy cells that you trade for stuff to get, materials like fans and springs and things like that, right? There's so many different currencies, so many different things to manage. And at the end of the day, you're spending more time screwing around with all this stuff than you are actually accomplishing anything in the game.
the game wants you to rely on these new powers so much, and it really sometimes gets in the way of just going about your business in this game. What I love absolutely the most in both Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild is just living in this world, just heading out in a direction and exploring and seeing what you find. And you come across an encampment of bokoblins or something, and you kill them, and you find a chest and it's got a cool weapon in it or something, and you carry on and you find some food or something that you can make a cool meal with. Maybe you find something that gives you a status buff or something. And you just explore and you live in the world, and that's really what I love to do in these games. However, in Tears of the Kingdom, everything seems to be conspiring against you doing that. Everywhere you go, there is something in your way. There is an obstacle that you have to overcome just everywhere. You can't just live in the world. Everything is a major challenge. The simplest thing of just going from A to B, let's say you finish a shrine or something like that, and you just want to head to the next shrine, or you see a tower off in the distance or something and you want to go unlock that tower. Well, it seems like there are so many more obstacles in your way in terms of just getting from A to B. The enemies in Tears of the Kingdom are stronger and more numerous because they want you to rely on being creative on ways to solve these problems. So where you may have come across 2 or 3 bokoblins, red bokoblins that were, easy, now the bokoblins are stronger, they're armored and stone bokoblins and things like that, and everywhere you turn around there's a battle talus platform somewhere or something. Like, you can't just take a leisurely walk in this world. There is crap everywhere that is trying to kill you, and that gets a little exhausting after a while when you really just want to explore and take on a few side quests or something.
Don't even get me started on the fact that half of these stupid towers have stupid fetch quests attached to them now, which means you can't even just go up to a tower, climb it, and unlock it. Now you have to go explore a cave or go find some person and unlock somebody from a dungeon, or so many stupid little things just to unlock a tower, open up the map, and carry on with the game. It gets pretty frustrating sometimes, and I think even some of the shrines you have to do quests to unlock is just, gets annoying really fast.
And that's really one of my major problems. The powers themselves are fantastic, and when you get into some of these shrines, I think that the shrines in Tears of the Kingdom are better than the shrines in Breath of the Wild. But here's the thing. Every single one of them, you've got to use these stupid powers, and there's always like an alternate way to get around stuff, and it really depends on where else you've been in the game, whether you're carrying some tech with you in your bag that you can make something out of to skip over the puzzle, or whether you've got to solve it the way the game wants to. And when I first started playing this game, I used to think that was really what made this game so special. But after doing 40 shrines or so, I'm starting to get frustrated with the process of constantly having to fiddle around and build crap, and I really just want to do more traditional things. The shrines are fine, though. I think the shrines are better than the Breath of the Wild shrines in terms of the variety of puzzles and things like that. Let's look at the temples, obviously, the divine beasts of this game. They're still not dungeons. They're not proper dungeons, and they're not really as interesting, I think, as the divine beasts, where you had all of these environmental puzzles. The beasts were moving and all, there was some really interesting stuff. But what is amazing, what is really, really fun, is getting to these temples, because when I'm in the mood for it, all of the environmental puzzles in the landscape, how do I get from A to B? How do I get up to this thing? Or how do I get over to this thing? I gotta build something. I gotta, maybe go up in the sky and parachute down onto something or whatever. Like, some of that can be really, really fun. And I think the journey in this game is often more fun than the conclusion of what you're trying to do. But I don't know, guys. As I sit down and play this game for an hour here and there, and, I pull out the amiibo cards and I drop a few, food items or something like that and go do some cooking or whatever, I find that I'm just consuming so much more cooking materials just trying to survive because, the combat is great. I mean, I've beaten quite a few of the bigger, things. I've beaten a couple of the Talus platforms, and I've beaten a couple of the several Hinox and a couple of Lionels, and it's a lot of fun doing these big combat challenges, but I feel like there's just too much BS in the way between all these really great moments where you just end up screwing around so much instead of actually playing the game. And I don't know, for some people, I think and that might actually live forever in streamer culture, just the way Minecraft does, where, people are making content on this game forever, just building stuff and, doing crazy things to try and break the physics in the game and stuff. And don't get me wrong, that's fun, but I feel like the best things about this game are also the worst things about this game. I don't know, guys, what do you think? Down in the comments below, let me know what you think of Tears of the Kingdom 5 months later. Have you beat it already? I think a lot of people probably have beat it, but I like to take my time with these games and just really enjoy living in the world, so I'll probably beat it before Christmas at this rate, but I don't know. I'm not loving this game as much as I did when it first came out. When it first came out and the shine was on the new car smell of the game, it seemed like it was so innovative, but really after spending 30 or so hours, and what that really means is 30 or so play sessions, what I have to say is some of it is getting kind of tiresome. And am I going to beat the game? Absolutely. I still think it's fantastic in a lot of ways. But I think at the end of the day, 10 years from now, the game that I'm probably going to go back to more often is Breath of the Wild, because it is a more comfortable world to live in, despite, a lot of the, the dangers and perils of Breath of the Wild, like the Guardians and stuff like that. I feel like that world is more cozy in a way to just go back and live in than Tears of the Kingdom seems very hostile. And I suppose if you really like a difficult game, a game that is constantly challenging you and keeping you on your toes, maybe that's what you love about Tears of the Kingdom. But I really loved the peaceful moments in Breath of the Wild where I was wandering through a forest and picking up food items and maybe shooting a bird or a pig or something like that. And I would go half an hour without seeing an enemy or an NPC or a town or anything, just messing around, climbing mountains and finding Korok seeds and things like that. And I find that a lot of that peaceful nature of Breath of the Wild is gone, despite the fact that the overall stakes in Tears of the Kingdom do not seem to be as dire as they were in Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is more stressful. And I guess that's really, at the end of the day, that's what bothers me, is how stressful this game is, that I have to be on my toes at all times, and I constantly have to have the gears turning in order to figure out a solution to not just a puzzle in a shrine, but literally every 100 yards that you walk in this game, there's some other thing you have to solve, some thing that you have to figure out how to overcome. And that was really cool in the first 10-20 hours of the game, but it's starting to get old. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I know I'm not alone on this. A lot of people are feeling the same way. I had this conversation with our buddy Sean from the Electronics Emotions program, and he was kind of saying this from day one, and a lot of us were so crazy about that new car smell when we first got the game that we were sort of nose blind to all of the problems. But I'm starting to see these problems emerge, and I have to admit, it's not the best game of all time anymore. It is still fantastic in so many ways, don't get me wrong. In some ways it's better than Breath of the Wild from maybe a pure academic game design philosophy. I think Tears of the Kingdom is the better game. But in terms of my enjoyment of the time spent in the game, I am going to say that I prefer Breath of the Wild. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.